Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at ICSAN, we don't just parade ourselves as the champions of governance across the globe. I'm also glad to inform you that when it comes to rich content for your career enhancement and knowledge and development, you need to give it to the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. I want to once again appreciate our presenters, Mrs. Godri Ogbeche from Renoil, and also Dr. Paul Alaji. It's been an interesting session. We appreciate you for taking that risk and embracing innovation by multitasking. Thank you very much. I will be going straight to the ground rules. My target here is to complete this session by 3:45. Please look at your time. It may look impossible, but with your cooperation, I want to appeal to you. By the powers conferred on me, I want to appoint all of us as temporary compliance officers. So I want you to please ensure you cooperate with me, and when it's time to ask your question, please, 15 seconds. What is a pronoun? Simple. Thank you very much. All right, so I'll be starting with the first presentation. I hope Mrs. Godri Ogbeche is online to attend to us. And also, on that league, we also have Professor Adebayo Adaralegbe. So while Mrs. Ogbeche is preparing, my first question to Prof is, Prof, I haven't listened to the presentation. My question will be, should the application of sustainability be restricted to the private sector in Nigeria?
Mr. Moderator, thank you very much for your question, but I want to start by thanking the Institute, the President and the Vice President and the rest of the team for putting this together and for annually burnishing the idea of governance in our country. To your question, I believe that it's only fair to answer this question by providing context to the concept of sustainable or corporate sustainability. You have to understand that corporate sustainability essentially means longevity for the legal person, or if you like, long-term value add for company business stakeholders. That simply means, I think that microphone is better, yes. What that simply means is that we have to preserve legal persons for the future in a way that generations unborn will actually assume ownership, whether it's the employee or the shareholder. That is actually what it means. As students in company law or corporate law, whether you're a lawyer or you're a chartered secretary, you must have come across these courses. The first thing you learn is that the legal person is the most viable and preferred vehicle for undertaking business because you have perpetual succession. And if you look around for men who are wedded to the premiership, you see a lot of football teams, and they announce proudly that they've been around since 1807 centuries. And if you are also good at shopping, you carry shopping bags that announce that they've been around for centuries. So in theory, you begin to wonder why it is important to have corporate sustainability. The reason is because of the value that the company is creating in society, whether in terms of employment or paying tax to government. I remember as a chartered secretary student in the 90s, I came across for the first time the idea of corporate governance, Cadbury Code of Conduct, and so on and so forth. And they were trying to rein in us the idea of having a nice and effective structure, because the legal person is said not to be able to function. The board of directors as meant to be its directing mind. But we find out too often that these companies actually collapse. We have them all around us, whether it's the Heritage Bank that its license was removed recently, or even in the days of Enron in US and so on and so forth. So the idea of corporate sustainability, put simply, is actually to help advance and preserve the life of a company. You ask a question, is it appropriate to have it in the public sector as against private? So corporate sustainability essentially means that you want businesses, companies to survive and to have a long life such that future generations can partake in it. It is something that is wired to the private sector, but there is actually a cross-fertilization between the private and the public, because public sector agencies and bodies actually pave the way and facilitate for a sound private company. Heritage has gone under, several companies have gone under, whether in the banking sector or even aviation airlines in Nigeria. We can relate with that. But I will suggest to you that the reason why it is so is because sometimes they are not being properly governed in a way that they can provide good yields for stakeholders for the future. So I think it's a relationship between both the public sector and the private sector. And we didn't get here easily. In the early 70s, there was an economist, Milton Friedman. Yes. Friedman actually suggested that it was an absolute waste of time to have companies focus on things other than generating profit and paying tax to government. And this was when CSR was actually on the front burner, early 70s. Since then, his theory has been debunked, and we went on to have, as I mentioned, corporate governance. From corporate governance, there was the Prime Minister of Norway, Brundtland. She came up with the idea of sustainable development, which simply meant that you are developing for the future, natural resources. And then today we have corporate sustainability. So it's a very, very deep concept, and it has proven very useful across the world.
Thank you very much. Yes, so tech team, please, I hope you have Mrs. Godri Ogbeche on board right now. So, madam, if you can hear me, it's good that you showed us a chart of companies that are really complying with the ESG. You showed us the Nigerian chart. And I'm hoping that by the end of 2024, Renault 2 will be counted amongst them. So you notice that there's a massive deficit in sustainability between international oil companies in Nigeria and the host communities. What is your view about this? Since you are in that sector, you are a player in that sector of the economy, and you've seen the crisis that have happened in the Niger Delta in particular. So what's your view? What's your assessment on ESG performance by oil companies? And please, madam, I will only restrict you to 1 minute. I crave your indulgence. Please, just 1 minute. We have a ground rule at the moment. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir. To be honest, I could barely hear your question, but if I got you correctly, you were asking about ESG or in the Niger Delta or something?
Exactly,
like
exactly.
Okay, yes, the jury is out there as to how much CSR, and especially because that has been able to, that they've done in Niger Delta. Most of the IOCs have very specific programs on how they want to mitigate some of the environmental risk and that or impact on the communities in the Niger Delta. But a lot of it has not, the monitoring and enforcement from the government side of it, and even with the relationship with the communities, has left a lot of questions, to be honest. But for me, what I think is that why don't we not create the activities that will result in that kind of, is it not better for us to prevent the negative impact of our activities or the activities of the IOCs or the oil companies in the Niger Delta than create the impact and then turn around and begin to do CSR? Because if the impact that has been created is, for instance, in the neighborhood of maybe $5 million, and then we turn around and do CSR of maybe $1 million, of what use is that really? But I know that, but interestingly, now with the PIA, there is a specific requirement for energy companies to have specific strategies for CSR in the Niger Delta. And as a matter of fact, my company, we were actually invited sometime early in the year to come to the National Assembly and defend the CSR projects that we have designed for this environment and all of that. So yes, we will continue to work with government and partner with the communities to ensure that the impact of activities are reduced and they will create a better life for people in the Niger Delta.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Ogbeche. We are grateful to you for that contribution. So I'll be going straight to our panelists from the other side of the presentation before we now proceed to the audience. So I will just share the questions among Dr. Paul Alaji and Mrs. Oyindamola Eyiwere. So it's going to be the lady first of all anyway. So my question to Mrs. Eyiwere is, I have a lot, but I will restrict it. Okay, good. Madam Eyiwere, please note, what are the innovative ideas you consider that the government of Nigeria should look into in this very challenging economic period? And also for Dr. Paul Alaji, do you think innovations are encouraged by the government of Nigeria, especially on economic matters? So we'll be starting with Mrs. Eyiwere. 1 minute, Mike. Please, you know you are beside me. I can easily prompt you. So please, be my compliance officer. Thank you. 1 minute.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's been an interesting outing and interesting day listening to the chief speakers and everyone. I have just 1 minute. So in terms of innovative ideas that the government could look at, they could look at digital economy by promoting e-commerce, online platforms, invest in digital infrastructure to push so that those who are innovative can be able to develop their ideas and be able to get funding. Government needs to also look at renewable energy in terms of providing alternative sources for us, either by way of solar or wind or hydroelectric electricity. They can look at education technology in terms of developing natural online learning platforms. They can support educational techs and startup and innovation hubs, as well as implement digital education infrastructure. Financial inclusion, the government can also work on financial inclusion, implementing a mobile platform, and encouraging startups and fintech companies and startups in what they want to do.
She complied. Give her a round of applause. All right, Dr. Paul.
Thank you so very much. Let me watch my time. Okay. So the question is, has government really supported innovation enough? I would say that, yes, government has supported innovation partly, but is it enough? It's a different kettle of fish, because just like my co-panelists have said, do we have sufficient data penetration in Nigeria? The answer is no. In fact, for some state government, before you can lay cables, they attach fee to it. And you know that without those cables, we cannot have a very efficient internet access or internet penetration as a nation. Two, when you also consider issues around digital ecosystem or digital economy, you see that Nigeria still lags behind when you compare to some African countries or some Asian countries. So do I think government have good intention and government wants to support? Every government, every nation truly have intention to do. But doing the right thing rightly, it's a different thing entirely. So my summary, to summarize, I would say that I believe government have good intention to support and help with innovation. But until we start seeing connection between our research centers and product connecting to the market, and also farms and innovation connecting to the market, we cannot exactly say government has done enough. Thank you very much, sir.
He also complied. Please give him a round of applause. All right, so we'll be throwing it open. We'll be entertaining just 2 questions from the audience. You'll see that I violated my ground rule. We were supposed to end this by 3:45. So the ball is in your court now. So from here, we'll know whether you truly want to go home as quickly as possible. So 1 lady and 1 gentleman. 10 seconds for your questions, please. 10 questions. Please, no contribution, no recognition. We appreciate your appreciation. Just go straight to the question.
Please
Thank
indicate
you.
by show of hand if you do plan to ask a question. Okay. Meanwhile, all of this discussion about innovation, technology, you need data to drive that. Whilst you're here, please seize the opportunity. There's an MTN stand just close to the entrance here. If you do need to get your broadband modems, please visit the stand and take advantage and get one. So the question?
Yes, your name and your question, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Bernard Esson. So let me just, to ask my question, I had an experience, a company that we were doing a transaction for, advising on a transaction. So we asked them, give us evidence that you've been paying taxes and levies. By the time they brought their evidence, the documents were so many. The table was filled. How do we sort through all of this? So we realized that this company was a logistics company. We realized that apart from paying taxes to the federal government, payments to state government, every local government is collecting, every town is collecting. Apart from government, unions, driver unions, indigene unions, this and that. So at the end of the day, how do you even have an operating profit when you look at how much you are spending? And these communities are not seeing it, that this person that is...
One house, please. One house, please.
So this person that is bringing a business to our community is trying to create employment, is trying to help us one way or the other. So my question is, how do we get these local communities, towns, unions, local governments, states, how do we get them to know that they need to support businesses rather than killing them? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. One more person.
A lady.
We do have attendees online. Tech team, please check, just in case we have anyone who wants to ask a question online.
A lady, please.
Go in. Okay, yes, we have someone here.
Shade Moyo-Falai. How do we get the outcomes of these very important conversations out to the right people in government and also get them to implement? It's brilliant to hear all that we've heard, and it's practical to see them embedded in the nation. So as ICSAN, how do we really get this out so that by the next conference, we're able to say from the 2024, we give this 1-2 point to the government, and here we are at. we've seen some results.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Shadi. Give her a round of applause. She complied. Brother Bernard did not comply.
Tech team, do we have any questions online?
Yes, that particular question will be taken
comment
by Madam President.
Okay.
Okay, so let's wait for the online
Moderator,
participants.
I understand there's a comment. Are you able to read that? Oh, you have it. Okay.
From the online audience, we have, okay, it says, to ensure adherence to corporate sustainability and IFRC sustainability reporting, the institution could consider a partnership with the Financial Reporting Council, FRC of Nigeria, to raise awareness and ensure the enforcement of IFRC sustainability reporting standards across Nigerian companies. This partnership would help align corporate governance with regulatory expectations. That's like a suggestion.
Okay, that's more of a
really.
contribution. Thank you very much. So
there's something,
okay.
Someone else, okay, I think it's the same person, says you advocated for stronger laws as a promoter of innovation. How do you balance this assertion with the argument that less is more and advocate for self-regulation among sectors in promoting innovation?
Sorry, is that a question? Okay, please give us that question again.
You advocated for stronger laws as a promoter of innovation. So I guess that's to Dr. Paul Alaje. How do you balance this assertion with the argument that less is more and advocate for self-regulation among sectors? Yes.
All right, good. This is what's going to happen. Seems those questions, the two questions, are actually going to Dr. Paul Alaje. So he's going to provide answers to those questions, just 1 minute as usual. So once it's done, we'll allow all the panelists to just speak for 1 minute to give us their final thoughts, and we are done with this session. Like I said in there, our President, Mrs. Ekundayo FCIS, will be talking to us about how ICSAN can send this message to the federal government of Nigeria. Thank you, Dr. Paul.
Okay, thank you so very much. I will start with the last question that has to do with less is more. It's important that less is more, but does not mean that nothing is more. As we speak, if you go to some places in Nigeria, people's books are being pirated. We cannot say because we have laws. Nigeria is not in need of laws per se. It's the ability to implement those laws that are really a huge challenge from us. We have brilliant lawyers, we have brilliant authors, and so on and so forth in the country. But when it comes to law enforcement agencies that are susceptible to collecting some inducement, or there is an environment that I can pay my way through in Nigeria so long as I know somebody. So the culture of the culture of our nation must change if we must change some of this. So it's not exactly just having the law, but our ability to make this law stronger is what matters. And that is why I say all the time, strong men are not as important as strong system, because the system can shape the men to size if you are becoming too strong for the system. So secondly, regarding multiple taxation, that's a brilliant question again that came from the professional over there, where he had Bernard, where people are being taxed to death, businesses are being taxed to death. Sorry, you know Gen Z's, Brother Bernard means something else.
Yes, that's it.
Right? You can see that.
Once you say Brother Bernard, they fall down. Something bad happens.
It means something else to them. So I said Mr. Bernard. Let me correct myself, Mr. Bernard. So here is it. I know the current government set up a committee to help harmonize taxation. And I can
One house, please.
I can tell you that that committee has submitted the report back to Mr. President. Whether the implementation will happen or not, it's a different conversation entirely. But my advice to association and unions, and also those paying, is that for us, and including FRS, states, LRS, and local government revenue collection center, is to digitalize their process. If the process is still manual, it will give room for corruption. Businesses will die.
Another example I will give is what happened with the United Arab Emirates. In the United Arab Emirates, people say there are no taxes. But the cost of starting business, to me, is taxes you have paid ahead, where you need sometimes to pay 5,000 dirhams, 10,000 dirhams to start a business. Exchange rate today is 455 naira to one dirham. So if you're going to pay 4,000 or 5,000 to start a business, apart from other special licenses you get, and you say you are not paying taxes, then I can tell you that you are indeed paying taxes. Because how much is registration with CAC Nigeria? And if you pay that, you now say you pay all of the taxes. So government, we need to innovate. It's still the same conversation on making these businesses to survive. Because if they don't, then you pay more for transport. Because that person or that driver or that vehicle owner will transfer the burden to end users. In this case, it is you and I.
Thank you very much. Please, let's appreciate him. Thank you very much. So we're moving to Prof. From Prof, we'll come back to
Thank
Madam
you very
Oida.
much.
1 minute, please.
Corporate sustainability actually rests on three broad predicates. And the easy one is economic performance. That can be measured and that can be dealt with using scientific means. That's skills that we acquired in school and all that. The ones that are actually X factors or known quantities are the social capital and the environmental natural capital. Social capital stands for ethics, for diversity, inclusion, equity, and for human rights abuses and so on. That has not gone down so well, and I think that we need to do a lot, especially with diversity, inclusion, and equity, DIE. It became actually, let me say, it was resuscitated when President Biden backed down and put forward Kamala Harris. And the Republicans attacked her and they said she became vice president because of DIY. But science has actually shown that companies where you have women as directors actually fare well. I think it's a school in Columbia or Chicago in the US. I can't remember, but this is scientifically proven. So we need to see, we have MDs as in banks, they are doing well, and we are seeing a lot more women climb up to the corporate ladder, but we need to do more with this. Environmental or natural capital simply means that we need to use our renewable resources as against oil and gas that is depletable. In Nigeria, we are a bit still confused, and that is one area that we need to look at closely. Because Nigeria signed the Paris Agreement in 2015. The Paris Agreement implies that you are going to do away with the oil and gas. But Nigeria came back to Nigeria in 2021, passed the Petroleum Industry Act, and has a big agenda for gas. So again, we need to reconcile this confusion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. A round of applause for Prof. So, Madam Oida.
Major challenge for innovation, particularly in our country, Nigeria, is funding the research. And when you have a good outcome of the research, how do you make it scalable and affordable for everybody? So if the government, and in collaboration with if we can have more of collaboration of government and private partnerships to provide funding for research, funding for startups, some form of mentorship is put in place, and resources are also allocated or made available in terms of loans, in terms of grants, it would help developing innovative ideas and getting it accepted by most people, by which a bulk of the populace will benefit from it. It's been interesting seeing what the fintech companies have actually done in terms of that. You don't need to leave your house now to order food. You have Chowdeck, you have Glovo, you have all these ones, and people keep developing apps and things every day that are trending to make life easier for you. If you like, you don't need to go to the market, just use an app, book your groceries from somewhere, you get it delivered. So if these startups and entrepreneurs can be encouraged to do it, I'm sure we'll have more of economic transformation, as it also creates job opportunities for many people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now to our president, is Ekundayo FCIS, for our final thoughts and to answer the question by Lady Shade. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me start by really appreciating our panelists. Please, can you appreciate them one more time? It has been very engaging, and that is why we still have a full house. Appreciate yourselves as well for your patience. All right, so for us at ICSAN, I did mention during my opening remarks, each time we have major programs that treat topical issues that are of national importance, we usually have communiques furtherance to those programs, and that's very key for us. And this particular annual conference will not be an exception. We're also going to have a communique which will be widely circulated across the private and public sectors. And we usually also publish the communique in the national dailies so that the general public can also see it. Essentially, we also partner with relevant government regulatory bodies. For the IFRS Sustainability Adoption Readiness Working Group that the FRSC put together, ICSAN was well represented on that group, and you would recall that the FRC released the roadmap report for the adoption of IFRS Sustainability Readiness recently. ICSAN was an essential part of that group that worked on that document. So essentially, we'll continue to seek for ways to influence and ways to continue to advocate, and I think that's the best we can continue to do as an institute. I'll continue to do that even at greater measure. So I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your cooperation. You remember our target was to complete the session by 3:45, but guess what? It was a way to incentivize you to get the best of your participation. I'm very sorry for doing that. Thank you very much. My name is Adedeji Adebi ACIS.
Please let's put our hands together for our moderator, Mr. Adedeji FCIS.